Welcome, MakerDAO community, to Toolhouse Rock episode 6. I'm Retro, the interim facilitator or current co-facilitator of the ecosystem cluster. And today we're hosting Tally, a governance solution targeted towards the sub-DAOs and potentially even CVCs as a way to coordinate on chain. Before we get started, though, quick 30 seconds on Toolhouse Rock and an even faster disclaimer. These views are our own. Inaccuracies are possible. This is definitely not financial advice and definitely not legal advice from the ecosystem cluster today. But as a quick preview on Tally before handing it over to Frisson and Raf, a couple team members from Tally who are joining us today, taking a look at the impact areas that this solution supports, the ecosystem infrastructure and governance security scopes look to be in play for this solution due to the way that it provides coordination tools on chain and is a way to power sub-DAOs. And the way that it improves on current solutions is that it presents a better pathway for collaboration, transparency, and overall on-chain governance. So with that, then I will stop my screen share and hand the mic and screen over to Frisson and Raf to take it away for today's presentation. And while they're getting set up, just as a reminder, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat or use the raise hand feature if you feel like hopping on the mic.
Awesome. Thanks, Retro. And yeah, feel free to call out if anyone raises their hand, since I'll be focused on presenting. And yeah, I will get my screen share going here. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I am very excited to present with Maker and engage with you all. So let's do this. Let's see.
And great to be here presenting to you as well. My name is Raf, one of the founders at Tally.
All right. Can you see the presentation, everyone?
Yeah, looking good on my side.
Okay, cool. I will go into slideshow mode. All right, good stuff. Cool. So yeah, and feel free to, of course, jump in with questions anytime. And Raf, obviously, feel free to jump in as well. Yeah. So I'm Frisson. I'm kind of like the non-engineer at Tally. So I do all the least important things. Just kidding. But I do like community and BD and comms and stuff like that. And Raf is our technical co-founder and CEO. So he's the smart one. All right. So
I'm not the CEO, by the way.
Sorry, I said CTO, or maybe I said CEO. I meant to say CTO. We're missing our CEO, Dennison, who's currently at DAO Tokyo. So yeah, we'll start with a quick, overview of what problems Tally solves for DAOs. So on the left, you can kind of see like our main use cases or like value propositions for DAOs. And then on the right is just a screenshot of our interface. On the right is a screenshot of the like very controversial recent Uniswap proposal in Q1 to deploy Uniswap v3 on BNB chain. And so you can kind of see like how we represent that proposal. But Tally is really like it's like a full kind of end-to-end tool kit or platform for on-chain governance. So one thing it does is it really opens up on-chain governance. There's a lot of kind of other on-chain governance systems where it's quite technical to create a proposal. Like there's really not like a no code or a user-friendly way to create an on-chain proposal. You have to, create it in the terminal. It needs to be created by a dev. Whereas Tally, anyone can use kind of our like intuitive UI to create a proposal. And we also have various like pre-built actions that you can use. So if you want to do like a simple transfer from an on-chain treasury, we have like an action builder, to create that transaction, and you can choose from a token that's in the treasury, and you can choose the destination, and create the proposal as like a non-technical or less technical user. So we opened up on-chain governance. We also provide on-chain decentralization. So another thing that makes us maybe a little different from like some parts of the DAO tooling ecosystem is when you create a proposal on Tally, it contains executable code, right? So I'll just use another example, like if you're sending funds from the treasury, right, and you create a proposal on Tally, it contains that actual transaction of sending from your DAO treasury to the recipient. In the case of this Uniswap proposal to deploy Uniswap v3 on BNB chain, when this proposal passed, which it ultimately did, it actually executed deploying Uniswap v3 on BNB chain. So it's not just treasury transfers, it's like arbitrary. You can sort of have an arbitrary transaction that calls arbitrary functions, and that means that the DAO can actually control anything that's on chain, including protocol upgrades. In this case, with deploying Uniswap v3 to BNB chain, and then finally, Tally increases governance participation. So we have a ton of tools, not all of which are captured in this particular screenshot on the right, that are really designed for community engagement with on-chain governance. So we have a suite of tools that power delegation. We enable delegate tracking, like a UI for delegate tracking. So it's not just like the delegate in the forum being like, and then I did the following, right? It's like you can actually go on Tally and see like everything the delegate has and hasn't done in the DAO that's on chain. We provide proposal status, which you can see in the bottom right of this screenshot, which is pretty sweet. So you can always kind of know where proposals are and like what the next step is in clock time, and a very friendly user interface for voting, which again isn't captured in the screenshot, but allows anyone to jump in who has voting power delegated to them, which you can delegate to yourself or others can delegate to you, and vote on an on-chain proposal. So I won't spend this much time on every slide, but this is just kind of like the kind of high level, like what Tally does. Infinite respect to Maker for like basically inventing a lot of this. Our architecture is a little bit different. We'll talk about this more, but we support the governor kind of smart contract primitive, and we can kind of support like a variety of different kind of DAO designs around governor. So we do provide like some features that aren't available in some legacy on-chain governance systems, and we support a primitive that's kind of like emerging as really the standard for on-chain governance we talked about. But just wanted to like recognize Maker for like blazing the path forward on-chain governance. Definitely an inspiration to us at Tally. So anything to add there, Raf?
Oh, nothing on my side.
Cool. But yeah, feel free to jump in with questions. I'm not sure if I can see the chat. So if Raf, or Retro, if you can keep an eye on the chat, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. None so far, but we'll call them out.
Cool. So yeah, this is just some quick background on us. We are highly adopted. We'll talk about Governor in a second, which is like the smart contract framework / primitive we support, but it's really becoming the standard for on-chain governance. And so you can see like we power Arbitrum, ENS, Gitcoin, Uniswap, Compound, Aave, and kind of a long tail of 100 plus more mainnet DAOs. And yeah, we talked about a lot of this on the last slide, so I'll keep going. So this is just a snapshot of where we are with numbers. So there's over 5 billion in like DAO treasuries that are controlled by Governor and then supported on Tally. We've supported over 400,000 on-chain delegations, over 5,000 proposals, over 8,000 actions executed, 94,000 votes. There's 14 million addresses that are like eligible to participate in a Governor DAO, and Tally and Governor are available on basically every EVM chain. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Governor. So one thing I'm kind of trying to highlight some of the things that make Tally different from, other on-chain governance solutions, which are also awesome, but just like the kind of unique things about Tally. So Tally is just the interface, right? So like the company Tally and Tally the product, we're really focused on the front end / UI for on-chain governance, but we support a specific set of smart contracts called Governor. So we kind of like made a bet of, a couple of years ago with founding Tally that Governor would become the standard for on-chain governance, and that's really played out. And there's kind of a few reasons for that. It's very simple, right? Like, I mean, it's easy to kind of understand and intuit how Governor works. It's also easy to deploy, a basic Governor and also customize some important pieces of it. So it only includes 3 contracts: the token contract, the Governor contract, and the time lock. It's supported by Open Zeppelin, so you can use their libraries and documentation to get started, and then it's completely modular. So any part of Governor you can basically make a Lego block with any other part primitive in the Ethereum ecosystem. It's compatible with both ERC20s and ERC721. So like one DAO you'll see on Tally is nouns, right? And then all of the kind of like derivatives of nouns, or like copy pastas of nouns afterwards are compatible with Governor and supported on Tally. And it scales really well. So one of the things that we see often is kind of early DAOs or smaller DAOs or projects that are in the earlier stages of decentralization. They will start with basically like some kind of social signaling tool, like usually Snapshot, right? And then they'll use a Gnosis safe for execution. And there's a few challenges with that, but perhaps the biggest one is it really doesn't scale very well. You can't really have too big of a multi-sig before things become like a little bit of a nightmare. And also there isn't really an ability for like the entire community to participate as it grows. So when you look at a DAO like Arbitrum, which recently launched, there's over 80,000 there were over 600,000 addresses eligible for the airdrop, and there's now over 80,000 unique addresses that have voting power delegated to them. And those 80,000 folks, right? Anytime there's a DAO vote, they can participate, which is just like not something that's possible with certainly with like Snapshot plus Gnosis Safe, but really with like a lot of other on-chain DAO frameworks either. Also, Governor, very secure, like very battle tested. It's been around for a while, formally verified, heavily audited, and also just has had effectively a massive bug bounty on it for several years now. So this is more, Raf is more of an expert here than I am, but anything you want to add to my overview or like pitch for Governor, Raf?
Maybe this is on the next slide, but I would also emphasize that Governor is an ecosystem, right? Governor isn't a Tally product. Governor is a standard that Compound built. A bunch of people forked it. Open Zeppelin made a sort of canonical implementation, but it's not the only implementation. And front ends like Tally support it, but so do lots of other front ends. So I think why I think Governor is a good bet is because you're not betting on one company or betting on having an in-house team that's going to maintain this tech, but you're betting on like a whole ecosystem of tooling providers and people building cool extensions and upgrades to it. And I think it's a great example of kind of composability and open source and modularity, because it kind of is this new primitive for controlling an account at scale with a bunch of people, right? You could draw a continuum of an EOA that controls one person, one account, a multi-sig where several people control one account, and a Governor where many people control one account. And I think Governor just is the tool that is winning in that niche now on an ecosystem level.
It's a great point. You can use governor and not use tally, right? Which is actually very powerful because it allows you to more comfortably make a bet on the technology. As you might be aware, like it's actually somewhat difficult to like migrate DAO tooling, like DAO from one DAO framework to another. A lot of times you might have to like, wrap the token or do other things that are like very painful for the community. And so by making a bet on governor, you're sort of betting on something that's like maximally composable and also not dependent necessarily on like any one group. So I'll just make that concrete. Like if you take a look at how Uniswap governance operates, there's actually many different front ends, right? Uniswap maintains their own front end for governor. And there's a bunch of other teams building in the governor ecosystem that are more like Tally, where they're just like focused on the front ends that have built different parts of Uniswap. Boardroom is another great example of theirs, there. And so, that's just an example of kind of like how that can play out and why it's sort of like maximally robust from the perspective, or it's sort of like future proof from the perspective of the DAO. Cool. So yeah, we're just going to dig into these things in a little more detail, and I'm going to go through these quickly. So, awesome tooling. As I've mentioned, not very smart, not a Solidity dev, but I have deployed a DAO. Pretty sweet. An on-chain DAO, right? And that's because there's this really cool tool called the Open Zeppelin Contracts Wizard, where you can like go over and be like, I want to create an NFT DAO with a quorum of 100% and then deploy myself all the tokens so I can just, I can be in control. I just want to feel important. Okay. And so, this contracts wizard is pretty sweet. Very easy to use, very easy to understand, which is very important for maximizing community participation. Like sometimes it's cool in DAO to have all sorts of like crazy steps and processes and lingo, because then you like actually have to commit to understanding it. But sometimes it can also be like a little bit not ideal, especially in the on-chain part, right? Like a big part of the value proposition of on-chain governance is that anyone can like audit a proposal and be like, oh, do I actually want this? No, I don't even want this. And so the on-chain part here is sort of like very easy to use and understand. And because it's modular, like people, so like there's a lot of talk out there obviously about like areas for improvement in governance, right? And so these are some of the like things people talk about, right? Liquid delegation, quadratic voting, multi-chain, multi-governor, multi-token, notice safe with governor signatures. These are all things that like people want to try experiments in on-chain governance. And like what's cool about governor is you can be like, all right, I'm going to use governor and I don't have to commit to any of these experiments in particular working, because the underlying framework is modular. But then you can like try any of them with the base governor that you have, right? So it's sort of like extendable to these different governance experience without being opinionated, which is pretty sweet because we're still very early on, right, in this overall journey of blockchain governance. Cool. And here's other teams in the ecosystem. So other tools that are kind of like Tally, Boardroom, there's a bunch of tools in the Nouns ecosystem, Civil, DAO, and more. And then there are teams that are like building more like smart contracts and trying to like innovate on top of governor primitive, Scopelift, GFX Labs, Open Zeppelin, Agora, Gnosis, and more. And these teams, like there's like more. This is one of like the fastest growing, like highest product market fit kind of areas of crypto right now. It's doing that thing where like in the bear market, it like keeps growing slowly, even against where it was previously in the bull market, which is a very good sign that, it's here to stay and actually growing quite quickly. Cool. All right. So yeah, I could demo Tally a little bit if y'all want. Gotta turn my lattice back on.
While you're getting that pulled up, we do have a question. Bana Publica asks, what is the purpose of the voting delay function in the Open Zeppelin governor contract, and why is it necessary for Tally's front end to function properly?
You want to take that, Rob?
Happy to talk about that. So the voting delay in the governor contract is the amount of time between when a proposal is proposed and when voting begins. And most, I think, governor DAOs on Tally have that set to 0, but a good fraction of them have it set to something larger than 0. And the reason they want to do that, set a number to larger than 0, is because they want to give voters time to get their votes ready. Because when the vote begins, there's a snapshot. Okay, here are all of the votes, and the smart contract records who has which voting power, and that's the voting power that's used for that proposal. And the reason to have a voting delay is just to give people time. Oh, I forgot to delegate. Oh, I don't want this person to control my votes for this proposal. I'm going to delegate to someone else or delegate to myself. And some DAOs, like Nouns, also use that voting delay as a kind of a social period for people to evaluate the proposal and talk about it. And then I think that the general point here is that Governor has lots of kind of config parameters to tune. And if you have questions about that, you could reach out to us. You can post on the Open Zeppelin forums. There's also Tally has some docs about each of those parameters. There's like quorum, voting delay, proposal threshold, time lock delay, all these things. And there's a second question in the chat from Juan about governance features coming with zero knowledge proofs. The short answer is yes. There is a very cool, the place I would start is a very cool, maybe a month or two ago, Nouns put out a kind of call for proposals to build private voting on top of Nouns, which is built on Governor. And there are obviously different use cases of ZK proofs, both the succinctness use case and the private use case. And then the third use case is kind of bridging use case, like bridge some state from mainnet to do some voting on a roll up or even voting off chain and then bridge it back to mainnet when the vote is finished. There are projects in all of those sectors. So I don't know, Juan, did you have a particular use case that you were thinking about, whether it's privacy or scalability or bridging? But the short answer is yes, there are people building on all of those vectors.
Nice. Yeah, no, nothing in particular. It was more to see if there was something coming.
Yeah, they're all kind of in the experimentation phase. So the Nouns the Nouns private voting proof of concept, some of the submissions are using ZK proofs, some are using MPC or a different kind of cryptography. And it's very much proof of concept. There were like 10 teams that made pitches. There was a poll to pick the top 3 teams, and those 3 teams are building proof of concepts right now for private voting for the Nouns DAO. And I expect that those kinds of proof of concepts will, get shipped this year and maybe get productionized later this year or early next year. But there's definitely a path to deploying a governor today that's sort of future proof in that there's a place to plug in the ZK voting when it's ready in the future.
All right, cool. So I'm going to demo 3 days.
Actually, one more question from Bana Publica. Can you explain the role of the cast vote function of the Open Zeppelin governor contract? So cast vote, very important function. Cast vote, and then there's a few variations on it, like cast vote with reason and cast vote by signature. But the purpose of all of these votes is that's the function that a voter calls on the governor contract to cast a vote on a proposal. So the core loop of a governor contract is people create proposals to do any on-chain action, most commonly like spend money or change the parameters of a DeFi protocol or upgrade a smart contract. And then that proposal is a transaction that is intended to be executed, but can't be executed yet because it has to pass a vote. This is, I think, pretty similar to maker votes, but anyone with voting power in that governor DAO can call the cast vote function and vote yes or no or abstain on each proposal. And then when the proposal finishes, if there's enough yes votes, then the proposal passes and gets executed. If there aren't enough yes votes, the proposal fails and doesn't get executed. And those are all the questions we had in the chat, but keep them coming. Happy to answer more.
May all of your favorite proposals be passed and executed. Okay. So I'm going to show off 3 different like use cases or jobs to be done of Tally. First one's focused on delegation. So we've really seen like delegation emerge as a standard, in on-chain governance. A lot of the most thoughtful DAOs that launch are launching with delegation at the forefront and really requiring the user to delegate in the airdrop claim flow if they're doing an airdrop. Of course, you can delegate to yourself. If you want to, represent yourself in governance or even represent others, but you can also delegate to others. And so this is the current state of delegation in the Arbitrum DAO. This is called the Explore Delegates page on Tally. So as you can see, it's a really handy way to see like who has voting power in the DAO. And so another thing, a thing that's cool about Arbitrum is that 2 of the top 3 delegates are DAOs. Wow, that's pretty cool. But you can also see all the other folks who have voting power delegated to them in the DAO, the amount they have, a little preview of like, what they're interested in. And then you can, just keep going down this page and explore delegates as you go. Look at that. More delegates. Oh, look, it's my favorite delegate myself. Shout out to, Frishin. He voted yes on AIP 1.1 and 1.2. So if you support the entity that manages the Arbitrum sequencer having funding, you want to delegate your ARB tokens to someone, I vote for, things that are healthy for the DAO going forward. And what's cool is you can actually see that. So if you click on my profile, it will show you more stats about me as a delegate. So this is like a view of me as a delegate in Arbitrum specifically, because I can kind of follow this click path. So I have 543,000 tokens delegated to me. That's like across a base of about 800 unique wallets that are delegating to me. I haven't created any proposals yet. There haven't been any on-chain proposals in Arbitrum, although like drama that's been happening is just in the sort of like social signal / forum stage. Hasn't made it to the like actually happening on-chain yet, but I think that will happen soon. And these are actually some spam proposals in Arbitrum that have come through on the on-chain side. And so, I guess, just between us friends and anyone who's watching this, the on-chain threshold for submitting proposals on Arbitrum accidentally got set a little bit lower than they originally intended with the design, so it is allowing some spam through. And we represent the state of the chain accurately on Tally. So here these proposals are, but they don't have any executable code in them. So it's like not really a security risk. But I also did not vote in them because they're spam. So, and they lost, which is kind of funny, but anyway, so this is, and then you can like see what else I do, right? Here's some other on-chain DAOs where I am a participant. Ooh, let's see, maybe I can go there from here and keep digging. So this is cool because like it really helps you understand, like if you want to understand like where voting power is in the DAO, audit the DAO, decide where to delegate your votes, see who's performing well, see who's not performing well, and then try to cross-reference that with behavior in other DAOs. You can kind of do all of that on Tally, which is pretty sweet. Ooh, this is Content Guild. This is like a service DAO for creating content about DAOs that we kind of like launched out of Tally and are like progressively decentralizing into its own entity. So if you want content about DAOs, hit me up. We can provide that as well. But yeah, here I am. I'm very active in Content Guild. And so, oh, interesting. This is because I changed my shift my voting power to a new address. So So yeah, you can see how I've performed in Content Guild. All right. Next, we're going to talk about voting. Well, I guess I need to go to a live proposal for that. So we might have to come back to that one, and I'll try to go find a live proposal. I think Uniswap also has a live proposal. Yeah, they do. Okay. Yeah, it's for deploying on Gnosis. Okay. So this is a current active proposal to deploy Uniswap v3 on Gnosis. They're trying to get Uniswap v3 on all the chains because the like BSL license expired, and they want to be there as everyone forks them and is like, look at my cool new innovative swap protocol that's definitely not Uniswap v3. And so they're doing a lot of these deploying. You can see kind of like the current state of the voting, who's voted for what. You can see the status. So it was published on Friday, and then there's like a delay, and then the voting period started on April 9th. One thing with governor is like you have to have your voting power delegated before the voting period starts. A lot of people get hung up on that. So like, if you got to make sure when these proposals go live that you make sure you have your voting power delegated before the voting period starts. We're in the live voting period era. It looks like they have a 6-day. I guess it's like, I don't know what this would count as in terms of blocks, but roughly 5-day, I guess, voting period for their proposals. It ends on Saturday, April 15th, so this Saturday. And then if it passes, it'll be in this like queue proposal where anyone can execute it. We got the voting timeline, so you can see how it's progressing, all the details of the proposal. We got the this is just like the written description. Obviously, somebody did a really good job of explaining it very thoroughly. And then we got the executable code too, so you can go check out and see what's actually going to be happening on chain if this passes. Oh, and we got comments. 0x0346 feels this is right. That's good. And so and then then I can participate, right? So I'm not going to actually vote right now because I don't think I have Unity tokens delegated in this wallet and stuff, but I can vote on this proposal with it. I have to have Unity tokens delegated to this address to vote, which I do not currently with the wallet I'm signed in on, but yes, anyone can vote. All right, cool. So that's voting. And then finally, I am going to talk about creating proposals. So another example, this is a Hop DAO. They're a multi-chain bridge. Anyone can create a proposal, but there is a caveat there. I kind of like touched on this with the which I need to actually like pull up with Content Guild. I'm having trouble navigating Content Guild right now because I think we're like having some issues on the Polygon side, so I can actually like show creating a proposal with my wallet. Raph, do you have any advice for like how to get to Content Guild?
Just type it in.
Oh, I can just type it in, right? Okay, cool. That's a good idea.
/content-guild.
Okay, cool. Okay, this will work. So as I mentioned, Content Guild is a service DAO that we kind of like launched a Tally and are decentralizing. And so I do have enough voted power delegated to me in this wallet to create a proposal. So most DAOs, they have this proposal creation threshold, which is basically like you need to have X amount of voting power to create a proposal. And this is to prevent spam, like we saw in the Arbitrum DAO. And so I gotta switch to Polygon too, because I'm currently on Arbitrum. There we go. Okay. So I gotta sign in to Tally on Polygon, and that verifies who I am. And that I have enough voting power to meet the proposal threshold for the Content Guild DAO. There we go. Which I think I'm having some issues signing in.
And then not working.
Right. Yeah. The challenges of the live demo. Let me see. Might have to try from another browser. New window. Let's see if I can make it work here. What was the quote you gave earlier, Retro? Live demos aren't supposed to work.
Yeah, at least on Toolhouse Rock. But that's just to take the
Okay.
pressure off, though. The expectations are still high.
Dang it. I need you all to lower your expectations, please.
While you're doing that, I'm not sure if you want to take a question or two, just a couple checkbox ones, but
Ooh, look, I did it. Let's go. All right, I am signed in. I think I tried to sign in too many times, but anyway, okay, cool. So I'm signed. I'll do this real quick. So I'm signed into Content Guild with my wallet that has 1 voting power, which is above the proposal threshold. I'm going to continue. I'm going to title my proposal Maker is awesome. Let's freaking go. So we have a cool markdown editor where you can be Endgame is dope. And then I can make that bold. And I can look at, oh, boom, I preview the markdown editor. It's bold. Let's go. You can add a preview image. And then, yeah, this is where you actually do the on-chain stuff. So I'm going to transfer tokens to myself. I'm about to just, drain the treasury. Let's go. So I put my wallet address in there. It verifies that it's real, who it's being sent to. You can choose a token that's in the treasury, USDC. It tells you how much is in the treasury. Oh, cool. That's how much I'm going to rug it for. Nice. So $6,007 maximum treasury rugging. It tells you what's about to happen here with some sweet media. And then, yeah, you can submit on chain, which I'm not going to do because I don't want my fellow members of Content Guild to think that I am rugging the treasury. But yeah, then it kind of goes into that flow where there's proposal status and everyone can vote. So there you go. This is just the the most basic action I would say for on-chain DAO is moving funds out of the treasury. But you can also do all of the other things such as a custom action that targets a smart contract and calls functions and does things like change parameters or deploy to a new chain or anything. So there you go. Okay, I'll stop there.
Oh, awesome. Appreciate the tenacity with the demo and the call out of a possible rug. Again, highlighting the disclaimer, this is not financial advice, but all jokes aside, the one question I had was regarding the tokens that you said were accepted by the system, both ERC 20s and 721s. Do you also integrate with 1155s, or is that outside compatibility?
I can speak to that. Governor, today, I don't know of any examples that integrate with 1155s, but my understanding is that it should be possible because 1155s are backward compatible with 721s. But I'll have to look into that and actually think about how that's possible. But on paper, I think so.
I'll take that opportunity to show the Tally team. So we are in the mix. We try not to be, in our ivory tower being I think there's a temptation as like a VC backed DAO tooling company to be like, like we built the tooling, make DAOs for it now, please. But we try to like actually, be in the mix. So like we built the service DAO content guild. We've actually launched multiple other DAOs that are now live on Tally, or like been involved in launching them, including Dope Wars, which is a really cool gaming DAO, and also Pride Punks DAO, which is an NFT DAO. And we also like work every single day, like side by side with the DAO community. So like, if there's something that you're thinking about and you just want like our opinion, which is not like the be all end all, but just like an opinion from people who have been full-time building in DAOs for several years and also have like observed successes and failures across many large DAOs, we're always happy to provide it. And just be like friends. If you want more like tactical help actually building your DAO, like or like figuring out DAO launch strategy, we have like services for that that we're happy to help with. And we're happy to help like, find documentation. We're happy to connect you with other teams that we are aware are building on the same thing. So that's a big part of what I do, but also Ralph and Dennison is just try to be out there with people and help connect them and like work through problems. So like we can help you figure out, if what you're actually planning for EIP 1155 is possible and how to do it. And if something needs to be built, who can help you build it?
No, I appreciate you highlighting that. We've had a couple other teams on this call talking about badging and permission based solutions. So seeing how that could potentially integrate with this one as well was the source of the question. Bona Publica also asks in the chat something similar to what I was also going to ask. You talked about how Tally's basically 3 contracts, the one of them being the token contract. Maker Core does have the intent to release sub-DAO tokens themselves. So would you be able to use that token and how would that operate? And then, I don't know if you want to check out the chat, but work in Bono Publica's question to that as well. I think it's timely.
Sure. So the first question that Retro asked about can Tally integrate a token? Generally, yes. The main thing that a token needs, an ERC20 or ERC721 token needs to be compatible with Governor is a couple of methods that keep track of voting power. And those are called, I think the best implementations are in OpenZeppelin's standard library. There's one called ERC20 votes and one called ERC721 votes for ERC20 and ERC721 tokens. And there's also an EIP standard that they just finalized late last year called EIP 5805 that talks about what methods a token contract needs to be compatible with the governor. Because as we talked about with these 3 contracts, token, governor, and time lock, they need to be able to talk to each other. So there is a pretty well-defined interface that is in Tally stocks and OpenZeppelin stocks that says what needs to happen for them to talk to each other. So I think the takeaway here is if you are deploying tokens for a Maker sub-DAO, even if you don't have a governor yet and aren't sure if you want a governor, I would say consider making those tokens compatible with the governor standard so that you can deploy a governor in the future if you decide to. And happy to send more documentation on what that standard is after the call. But the thing to search for is either EIP 5805 or the contracts themselves that implement EIP 5805 in OpenZeppelin standard library. The extensions are ERC20 votes and ERC721 votes. And then to Bono Publica's question, why does the token contract need to implement name, symbol, and decimal functions for Tally's on-chain governance system? The, I guess, specific answer is Tally calls those functions on a token contract when we are indexing it to put it in our UI. We want to show you, you user, you have this many tokens or this much voting power of these tokens. Then this is the name of the token. This is the symbol of the token. But I think there's another question that maybe you're asking, because it sounds like you're reading Tally's docs about compatibility. So if you go look in Tally's docs about compatibility, we have a couple pages about what we expect from each of the contracts, the token, the governor, and the time lock, to be compatible with Tally. And this gets at the kind of implicit standard, right? Like Tally's a front end, and we want Tally to just work with these governor DAO contracts so that people can build DAO contracts. They might need to customize them for their own needs, but they might also just want them to work with Tally as a front end and other front ends. And our docs write down exactly what things Tally's front end expects. So maybe you want to customize governor because you have particular requirements. We've seen lots of cool customizations around changes to tokens, changes to the way voting power is calculated, quadratic voting, liquid delegation. There's all these interesting customizations that we alluded to a couple slides ago. If you want to make some of those, you can reach out and talk to us about it, or just read our docs, and we try to explain what Tally's app and what Tally's indexer expects for different customizations to still work on Tally. And any other questions?
I can comment on the arbitrum drama, like if you want. So I think Juan asked that, like basically during the DAO launch, Arbitrum didn't disclose that there is a set like roughly 7% allocation to the Arbitrum Foundation, which, like, in retrospect is totally fine. Like, in my opinion, this is my opinion as a delegate, right? Not an employee of Tally, but like, you know, if you look at other DAOs, like the DAO actually had quite a very, very solid community allocation, and like all these chains have foundations. They need foundations. The Arbitrum Foundation is pretty dope because it actually manages the sequencer and takes all the net profit from the sequencer and puts it in the DAO treasury. God damn, that's a lot of ETH. That's pretty dope. So foundation good. Not disclosing the foundation allocation in the DAO launch comms bad. So like that was the original drama, is like people realized that the foundation was kind of like, you know, existing and, and having a lot of tokens. And then there was some like just classic, like, you know, weird way of phrasing things from some people, massive fight on forums, blowing up into viral thing on Twitter thing that happened over the course of like last weekend. Yeah, if you look at like the current state of the Arbitrum forums, there's kind of like a few competing proposals to how to move forward, and the ones that are winning are 1.1 and 1.2, which I think are like a very healthy path forward, and the DAO will be in a good spot. But that's the TLDR on the Arbitrum drama.
Appreciate the insights there. I think Juan was being a little facetious talking about drama in a DAO. But moving on from that, it doesn't look like we have a ton of questions, and we are coming up to the top of the hour. We'll make one more call for any questions, but while we're waiting, it looks like Tim has one. If you want to hop on the mic.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Oh, yeah, sound great.
Cool. Yeah, so we spent quite a bit of time talking about governor, and yeah, that's great. I'm more curious about what other frameworks you guys are thinking of, sort of as the market's changing. Where do you think the puck is going, and what is Tally doing to kind of adapt to that?
Yeah, I would say I think the market's going a lot of places. I don't think governor is going anywhere. I think governor is one building block, one Lego, one primitive that a lot of other things are connecting to and building on. So one thing you ask is when pods. I think pods are already here. The normal way people use pods is they have a safe or some other multi-sig that manages funds and is either socially accountable to the DAO, or what we're starting to see more and more is actually controlled by the DAO, like the governor, or whatever the DAO smart contract is. It has admin rights over the pod. It can add and remove signers. It can also control the assets in the pod. And I think there's some great implementations of that from the HATS team, the Metropolis team, and the Gnosis Zodiac team. They've all built some ways to connect a governor to a pod. So that I think already works today. We see several DAOs doing it. And we have a feature on Tally that Frisian, if you go to like the ENS homepage, you can see all of the ENS pods on the Tally ENS page. And the goal here is for us to just show there's more we can do here, but these are all the Gnosis safes. These are all also Metropolis pods that are controlled by the ENS governor. And now there's some visibility on this page into when ENS makes proposals to move money into these pods, you can now see how much money is still in the pods. You can see the signers on the pods. And if you click on one of those links, you will also see the transactions that pod is doing. So I think at Tally, we want to, our values here are transparency, help make DAOs transparent and accountable, and also easy and safe. And we think this feature helps go a long way in that direction. But then I think the general question of where's the market going, we see a lot of stuff being built on top of this building block. We talked about ZK voting, private voting. We also are seeing cross-chain governance, like Uniswap on mainnet governs the Uniswap implementations of the protocol on probably a dozen different chains now. A similar story in other big DAOs like Aave and Hop. The Arbitrum DAO is pretty cool because it is the DAO on layer 2 is governing the contracts on layer 2, also the contracts on layer 1. Also, it governs layer 3 implementations on Arbitrum and things like Nitro. So I think we're starting to see people take this a pretty composable building block and connect it to a whole bunch of other building blocks, which is really cool to see. And we're just excited to see what people come up with next.
If Maker has use cases around, like permissions and stuff like that, we would be happy to like talk through, how we can support, how Governor can support the lessons we've seen from other folks building in there. We would love to engage on that.
Yeah, we maybe need a call sooner rather than later. I really liked what you said about Tally being an ecosystem or a platform for DAOs to build on top of. So learning how we could leverage that as well as how other sub DAOs could leverage that, I think really will enable the most resilient organization possible. But with that, I think we'll leave the conversation here for today in lieu of any other additional building. If the audience and people watching this want to reach out to you to learn more and start using Tally, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I think in this
go ahead.
deck, which I think is getting sent out, there's like where did my screen go? No. Oh my gosh.
It's probably on the other desktop. You have to scroll to the Brave browser.
Yeah.
Control and right arrow. But on that slide, there is a Frisian at tally.xyz is an email. You can also email me, Raf at tally.xyz. We are also on Twitter. We answer our DMs. And Telegram, my name is Rafso, RAFSO. On the Telegram, you can just shoot me a message there as well.
Awesome. We'll make sure all the handles are updated in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for making time and conducting an awesome demo. I think the audience here got a lot out of it, and we'll make sure to host this with the other Tooltime calls. Toolhouse calls to make sure that as ecosystems are growing around Maker, they have the tools needed to be successful. But thank you, gentlemen, again, and hope to talk to you guys in the future here.
Appreciate
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.